So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the secret weapon to weight loss. And today you're in for a treat because I have searched all over YouTube and I have not seen one of the quote unquote weight loss experts talking about this topic. So today I'm letting the cat out of the bag because today we're going to talk about macro fasting. So let's get into the video. So before we get into the video, guys, if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. But if you've been here before, welcome back. My name is MrFitness, the body transformation specialist. And on my channel, I talk a lot about weight loss. But I also talk about a lot of other topics related to weight loss. So if you want the absolute best information on how you can lose the most amount of weight the quickest, then you're definitely going to want to consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never ever miss another weight loss tip. Now, with that being said, let's get into the video. So what exactly is macro fasting? Well, before we get into the details of macro fasting and how it works and how you can apply it, first let's make sure we're all on the same page with talking about exactly what fasting is. So I'm sure already you've watched many videos on fasting before and you're already convinced, or maybe not, but you're probably convinced that fasting is a great way or a great tool to lose weight. But what fasting is, if you're not familiar with it, is it's just not eating food, not eating anything with calories in it for an extended period of time, whether it be, 12 hours, an intermittent fast, or every 24 hours, an OMAD style diet. Fasting is simply not eating. And you might have even been doing some form of fasting and not even really knowing it. When you get really busy during your workday and you just forget to eat, yeah, that's fasting. Or the 6 or so hours that you spend sleeping, that also is fasting. So now that we've talked about the fasting part of it, what about the macro part of it? So you may have heard of macros before and counting macros, and that's exactly what this is all about. Macro fasting is, there's your 3 main macronutrients, which is protein, carbs, and fat. So when we put the two together, it simply means that you're refraining or abstaining from eating certain macronutrients. And that, my friend, is macro fasting in a nutshell. But it gets just a little deeper than that. Let me explain. So in just a second, I'm going to talk about macro fasting and how it can be a great weapon or a tool to help you lose a lot of weight really fast. But before we get into that, let's first talk about why macro fasting might be better than traditional fasting. Now, keep in mind that a lot of the negative effects that I'm going to talk about in this video are more associated with the longer fast, 24 hours plus, but some of them can also be associated with shorter fasts. So the first negative of traditional fasting is the potential for muscle loss. So if you've got a lot of weight to lose, chances are you've also got a lot of fat. And one of the main things, or one of the main benefits, especially as we get into the longer hours of a fast, is that when you deplete all your body or your body of all the other sources of energy like carbs, your body will naturally turn to fat as an energy source. But what often happens in a lot of people is your body will convert muscle protein into energy before it starts to tap into that body fat. And here's why. You see, the process that your body has to go through to convert fat into energy and to convert muscle into energy is completely different. And it is much easier for your body in a calorie deficit to convert muscle tissue into energy than it is for your body to convert fat into energy. And one thing we got to remember about muscle is the one tissue that we don't want to burn, because muscle is one of the tissues within our body that uses fat as an energy source. So when we start to burn muscle for energy, we start to decrease our body's ability to burn fat. All right, so the second negative of traditional fasting is what a lot of people call starvation mode. Now, although you are not actually starving, your body goes into what's called conservation mode. I like to call it conservation mode because what happens is your body downregulates your metabolism to eventually as a survival mechanism to prevent you from dying. So your body almost feels like you're not going to be eating for an extended period of time. So your body needs to hold on to everything that you do eat So this slows your metabolism, so then you burn fewer calories, which is the exact opposite of what we want to do if we want to lose weight. So the third negative of traditional fasting is that a lot of the weight that you lose is going to be water weight. So on most of the longer fasts, a lot of the initial weight that you're going to lose is going to be water weight, meaning simply because your body is made up of 60 to 70% water. And this generally isn't a problem because you've experienced before that when you go off any diet, you normally gain the weight back plus some. So this is normal. But where it becomes a problem with traditional fasting is when your metabolism is extremely slow from the calorie deficit dieting and from, just eliminating everything from your diet, is that when you finally do gain the weight back, a majority of the weight that you're going to gain back that you initially lost as water is going to now be replaced as fat because your metabolism has slowed down so much. And the fourth main negative of traditional fasting is the way you feel during a fast. So most people, when they're on a traditional fast and they're not eating, and this can be more in the first few days of the fast, is they can feel dizzy or faint or muscle fatigue or aches and pains or just fatigue in general. And the main downfall of that is that it's hard to stick to something like that when you feel that way. And that's why a lot of people that fast aren't very successful at it. So those are some of the negatives associated with traditional fasting. But the great thing about macro fasting is it kind of negates or allows you to bypass all of those negatives. So at this point in the video, you're probably convinced that macro fasting is something that you should try. And you might be asking yourself, how exactly do we implement, or how exactly do I implement macro fasting to help me get the absolute best weight loss results and the quickest weight loss results possible? Well, the way we're going to accomplish that is we're going to focus on the macronutrient that's most responsible for weight gain. And the macronutrient that I'm referring to is carbs. And because all carbs are not created equal and some are better than others, we're going to focus on the starchy kind. All the delicious carbs, the sweets, the cakes, the candies, the breads, the rice, the pasta, the potatoes. Yeah, in order for this diet to work, we need to get rid of those. So by this point, you're probably asking yourself, how many carbs can I eat? How many grams of carbs can I have per day? And this right here is the exact formula that I've used over the last 30 years successfully with hundreds of clients. So here's what you're going to do. For every 3 pounds of body weight, you're allowed to have 1 gram of carbs. So just as an example, if you weigh 150 pounds, you're allowed to have a maximum of 50 grams of carbs per day. But remember, we talked about eliminating all of the most delicious carbs. So guess how many grams out of that 50 can be those delicious carbs? If you guessed 0 grams, you'd be correct. So that's right. During the course of this diet, you are not allowed to have any of those starchy carbs, the sugary carbs. That 50 grams needs to be made up of non-starchy fruits and non-starchy vegetables. And this isn't going to be easy, but trust me, if you can do this, if you can stick with this program, I am guaranteeing you that you are going to lose all the weight you want to lose, and maybe even a little bit more, or maybe even a lot more. So when we look at some of the most popular forms of fasting, like the 16-8, where you're fasting for 16 hours and you're having all of your meals within an 8-hour window, or the OMAD style of fasting, where you're eating once a day, here's an example of how you can apply macro fasting to one of those forms of fasting. So let's take for example, the 16-8. So during that 8-hour window, let's say you're going to eat three times within that 8 hours. You're allowed to have, again, in the example that we talked about before, the person that weighs 150 pounds, you're allowed to have a total of 50 grams of carbs. Now, you can split that up any way you want. You can split it up evenly, or you can split it up with 2 meals and have 25 and 25, and then 1 meal you have 0. No, as long as it's no more than 50 grams, and you can also have less than 50 grams. But the thing to remember is that 0 of those carbs can come from the starchy, sweet kind. So again, guys, I want to stress that I have used this successfully with my clients over the 30 years that I've been doing this. And I am guaranteeing you that if you follow this, if you commit yourself to doing it, you'll get results just like them, if not better. So there you have it, guys, the secret weapon to fast weight loss, macro fasting. Now, again, I'm sure that this is probably your first time hearing this about macro fasting, but it is an amazing tool that has helped plenty of people get amazing results. So question, when will you start to incorporate macro fasting into your diet? Let me know by leaving your comment below. And make sure you check out this video over here where I talk about intermittent fasting and weight loss. So I go a little bit more in depth in this video over here where I talk about fully everything about intermittent fasting and weight loss.